Good afternoon or good evening, or wherever you may be watching this video. I thank you for doing so. Of course, thank you and welcome to my channel, The Professor. Now, I have been reporting on the Eddie Alexson case, and I have received a number of comments from people who commented that how come I'm not talking about how Eddie Alexson can get out of this trouble he's in. Now, I have to tell you that it doesn't give me great pleasure to report on cases such as Eddie Alexson or any other Haitian professional who's gotten into trouble. But I think that this particular case, this fraud case, it's a moment for us to take an opportunity to teach the community, because this is not the first time the Haitian community has been victimized by fraud. Now, I have to tell you that I do not opine on whether Mr. Alexson is guilty or innocent. I'm sure that this is something that the court will do. That's why we have a court system. He's simply accused of a crime. Whether he's guilty or innocent, it is not for me to say, it's for the court to say. Now, I can talk about the evidence that the government has against Mr. Alexandre. I can comment on the evidence, what's been released from the court, and I can give my opinion about the evidence or his attorney or the prosecutor. But I can never tell you whether I believe he's innocent or guilty. That is for the court to do. Now, there is another case that I want to talk to you about. And this case, it's kind of interesting because it's kind of mirrors Mr. Alexandre's case. It is the case of the United States of America versus a gentleman, a Haitian American, by the name of RULESS PIERRE. Mr. Pierre is 52 years old. He's from Rockland County. He was today, he was sentenced by Judge Seibert from the Southern District of New York. He basically was accused of the similar crime that Mr. Alexson is accused of: wire fraud, securities fraud. And Mr. Pierre, who's Asian American, I will talk about his case in more detail. But I think this is a telltale sign for Mr. Alexson. And since you guys asked me to talk about how Mr. Alexson can get out of this case, and I'm going to tell you how, okay? First of all, I want to give you a little background on RULESS PIERRE. RULESS PIERRE was a Haitian American man who came to the United States in 1987 at the age of 17. He went to Nyack High School, grew up in Nyack, New York, went to college, got a college degree, and started to work. However, in 2016, 2017, Mr. RULESS started this Ponzi scheme. Kind of the same thing that we've been hearing in the Alexandre case. The Ponzi scheme that Mr. Pierre, RULESS PIERRE, was collecting money from would-be investors and promised those investors that they will get 20% of their money, 20% as a profit, every 60 days. In fact, Mr. RULESS PIERRE did exactly what they were accusing Mr. Alexson of doing. He took the people's money, put it in his own account. He buys cars, he buys other goodies for himself. He actually never really invested the money. Of the little investment he made of the people's money, he made those investments under his name, which is a no-no, not under anybody else's name. And of course, he lost most of this investment. Now, Mr. Pierre was arrested in 2016. He was arrested in 2018. And certainly, the Haitian community haven't really heard about this case because this case hasn't really been much in the media. I have decided to do some research and come across this case, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about it in my next video. But I wanted to really share with you and ask the question, why is it the Haitian community is so easy to be taken advantage of in such fraudulent Ponzi scheme manner? And this is something that I want to talk to some expert. In my next video, I'll be inviting people to address these issues. But in any event, Mr. Pierre was sentenced to 84 months in prison. He was also, he has to pay back some $3 million of restitution, actually $3.7 million. And the court has been able to collect $2 million. Now, in his case, and this is for some of the people who have invested with Eddie Alexander. And I'm going to show you that in this case, the court has published the name of all the people that RULESS Pierre took money from, the amount of money he took, how much money it was. And it is the same federal court in New York. So we expect that in the case of Eddie Alexander, if he were to be found guilty, the same thing would happen. Now, I also have to tell you that RULESS Pierre hired one of the best law firms in the city of New York. He hired Simpson Thatcher Bartlett LLP. It's a huge, big law firm, one of the best in the country, located in Lexington Avenue in New York City. With the best lawyers and many, many decades of experience, they couldn't get RULESS Pierre out of this trouble. So RULESS Pierre went to trial 2 weeks ago. I mean, he went to trial in 2021, last year. The trial lasted about 2 weeks, and he was found guilty of 3 specific crimes. One was securities fraud, one was wired fraud, one was structuring. I will explain to you more what structuring is. I think I've explained in my prior video what wire fraud is, what security fraud is, but I would explain structuring at a later date. Now, for those of you who've asked me, how can Eddie get out of this morass, of this problem, of this legal issue? I have to tell you that the federal government does not operate like state government. When the government brings a case, it's almost ironclad. Very, very seldom you find the defendant wins a case at trial. And the reason for it is that the way the law is written, the way that the judge gives instruction to the jury, all of that plays into what happened at the end. Now, in the case of RULESS Pierre, Mr. RULESS Pierre did not take a plea. He decided to go to trial, and he lost. He lost very badly, and the judge actually had mercy on him because he could have faced between 87 to 108 months in prison. The judge gave him 87 months, and I'm going to explain to you why he got 87 months in prison as opposed to 108. In his case, the prosecution basically opined that the loss was between $3 to $10 million. So the loss of money plays a role in terms of how much time you get in prison. So in this case, RULESS Pierre got 84 months, which is about 7 years in prison. So here's the question. Could RULESS Pierre have gotten a lot less time if he had taken a plea? Let me explain to you how this worked. RULESS Pierre was arrested in 2018. His case obviously is what about 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22. His case is 4 years old. During this 3 years, the government has had enough time to conduct the investigation, to bring more witnesses, and to do what they need to do to prepare for trial. RULESS Pierre could have taken a plea and got between 18 months to 3 years in prison. He would have saved the government money, and he would have gotten a three-point departure on his sentence. And I don't want to confuse you, because the law of sentencing at the federal level is very complicating. There's a sentencing guideline. There's all kind of things that goes into how many years somebody get. So if he had taken a plea, he would have gotten three-point departure, which would have reduced the number of years or months that he would have served in prison. But he didn't do that. He went to trial. And I got to tell you, he had a very good law firm. Okay, Simpson, Thatcher, and Butler is one of the biggest law firm in New York. I have litigated cases against that law firm. Of course, I won because I'm good. I was good. But I got to tell you, I have a lot of respect for the lawyers there. Some of them are former prosecutors. They are very good. They know what they're doing. Just like the lawyer that Eddie Alexson hired, these lawyers also were former prosecutors. But even with that experience, even with that firepower, they were still unable to get PIERRE out of this problem. So PIERRE now is going to go to prison for 7 years as opposed to 3 years. So here's my advice to Eddie Alexson and his family. Though I don't know them, never spoke to any of them, never met Eddie Alexson one time in my life, never met his sister, never met any of them. But as a Haitian former attorney, prosecutor, defense attorney, and someone who has experience in the system, I am telling Eddie that if he doesn't take a plea and end this case, 3 years from now, he will be convicted. And when he gets convicted, we're talking about $59 million. I don't know of how much of it will be considered loss. Certainly the government would tell the judge how much of it is a loss. And Mr. Alexson can end up being in prison, if not for 7 years, but for 20 years. This is not the first time this has happened in the Haitian community. In the last few years, we have had George Theodule in West Palm Beach, who took $68 million from the community. Now we have Eddie Alexson, who's accusing of taking $59 million. And of course, the gentleman, PIERRE, who just got sentenced to prison for doing the same thing. Here's my question. Why is it so easy for the Haitian community to be duped? I have in my hand a list of people that the court considers victims that give money to PIERRE, and the amount of money they invested. And those amount of money, they're not small. I mean, $45,000, $50,000, $60,000, $10,000, $7,500. And I know for a fact that the Haitian community, members of the community, works very, very hard. Some people do 2, 3 jobs. Some people are nurses are doctors, taxi drivers, cleaning person, security guard, bus drivers. Haitians are hardworking people. They work hard for their money. And it pains me to see them losing the money the way that they have lost in search of, getting rich quick. And I have said this before, and I'm saying it again. For all the Haitian, my brothers and sisters who are watching this video, there is no way to get rich quick in this country. There's no way. When somebody comes to you and promise you, okay, and basically is telling you that they are guaranteed a return on your money, run so far from them. Actually, lose their phone number. Because no one can guarantee a return on investment. Investment is something you do that takes a long time. And if you're lucky, you may get a sizable profit and you may go into retirement and live well. But you have to start early, and you have to know what you're doing, and you have to find a professional. There are a lot of charlatans, a lot of people who takes advantage of the Asian community. And some of them may look like Jesus. Some of them may be praying with you every day. And just because they're praying with you every day doesn't mean that they're good people. It doesn't mean that they have your best interests at heart. I do this for no other reason than to teach the community, than to help the community understand. Because just like you, I'm just tired of you guys losing money. It just doesn't make sense. I think that money could be put into good use. You could save your money. You could pay for your children's education. You could buy a new house. You could buy a new car. But for most of you who don't know anything about investment, I am telling you that no one can guarantee any return. So please, next time somebody come to you and tell you that they're going to guarantee you 5% every week, just walk away. Thank you. Follow my channel and subscribe to my channel, because I have a lot more information coming for you, not only in the Eddie Alexander case, but also in the RULESS PIERRE case. And this is the first time I'm talking about it. I will be talking about it more. I will bring more information to you. And of course, the name of some of the people who invested are public information. We will share the name of them with you. Again, thank you for watching.